Let's bring you more context on this story. Security expert Pratikrit Prain remains with us on the show to bring us context on this entire story. Mr. Prain, I just want to understand from you, the attack that took place yesterday, the one that we are focusing on, had the special unit of the DRG. That is the unit that suffered the losses. I want to understand from you, sir, most experts agree that by the DRG being targeted multiple times in the last few years, there is a clear message that is trying to be sent to tribals and to locals in the area. So I just want to ask you, how should administration navigate when you have a message like that the Naxals are attempting to give?
Well, firstly, there is a considerable level of disillusionment among the tribals, and the tribals no more look at the Maoists as their saviors, as their mentors, as their protectors. The Maoists have done enough harm to the tribals, and that's why you see for a long period of time over the last 1 decade or so, a considerable number of tribals have moved away from the Maoist movement or being sympathetic towards them, and a large number of them have joined the security forces. In fact, if you look at District Reserve Guard, which is DRG, DRG consists of mostly of those people who were part of the erstwhile movement called Salva Judum that was organized and created as a formal state police force. Most of these are tribals, and let me tell you, DRG as an organization has been extremely effective in terms of countering the Maoists because they consist primarily of local tribals. They know the terrain, they know the language, they are people of the forest. They are completely in tune with the region. They know they know how to operate. They know the Maoist tactics also. So on most occasions, the DRG has been so effective that Maoists at times are more scared of the DRG than probably other forces. The DRG consists almost around 3,500 personnel, and much like the greyhounds of Andhra Pradesh, they are very, very effective. And let me tell you, DRG is also trained by at certain levels by the counterinsurgency and jungle warfare training school at Vairangate, even by the greyhounds. But one problem with the DRG is this: I don't think this attack will, stop the tribals from joining the forces. The Bastaria Battalion is a great example of how CRPF is training the tribals. And in fact, whether it is the Koya Commando Force or the Salva Judum, it is because these were formed by the local tribals to wage war against the Maoists who were collecting taxes for them, preventing them from going into the forest. I don't think it will prevent the tribals, but one thing is very clear: the DRG has to be far more disciplined. There's a problem in terms of being a little casual. They're a little desperate. They do not follow the SOPs. Unfortunately, because of that, often precious lives have been lost. With the highest respect to their martyrdom.
Do stay with us. Thank you for giving us that context. I want to go back to my colleague Arunima, who stays with us. Arunima, when we spoke to former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, SP Vaid, and when we spoke to Pratikrit Prain, the security analyst who remained with us, both pointed out that a car should not have been involved. Either they should have been on foot or a bike should have been involved. I just want to understand what security forces have told you about that aspect, Arunima.
See, the SOP is very clear. The SOP says that when you're going for an operation, if you must travel on a vehicle, it has to be a two-wheeler. There has to be a distance between the two motorbikes so that if one goes off, at least the others are safe. They are then in a position, they are a little far back, and they are in a position to save themselves. Or you carry one of those heavy-duty anti-mine vehicles which are saved even if they are blown away. But if you're carrying 200 DRG personnel, it is not the kind of resources that we are talking about. For DRG at least, the 200 people can be sent in one of those vehicles. I think each vehicle can accommodate only about 4 to 5. The mistakes are more than that. Even if you decided to be in a vehicle, the moment you hire a private vehicle, two of these, one that was blown off, the second is the Scorpio, whose driver actually shot that video, which we now managed to put on air. Both of these are private vehicles. They are not police vehicles. The moment you hire a private vehicle, the word goes out because that person from which you're renting the vehicle is also a local. And these Naxal local people, they have not come from across the border somewhere. They live their daily life among these troubles, among these locals. And therefore, word goes out, giving away your movement plan. That's mistake number 2. The third mistake, now we are being told that perhaps the tunnel was dug in a way that even if it was an ROP, they missed out on what was going on the road. But was any sanitization done? Was there a proper road opening done before this convoy moved? That's something that the police leadership will have to ask itself. And the last question, even though more difficult to implement than it is said, the SOP is that when you're traveling up, ensure that while you travel down, you don't take the same road. This road is the main highway, so to say, which connects Dantewada to Jagargunda. So it's the main road towards Arhanpur. But if you have traveled up this road, could you have taken an alternative route to come back? That is also something that's a violation of SOP, and answers must be given by those who were responsible for the DRG's back movement.
Okay, Arunima, thank you for bringing us that context. Arunima, again, if I could ask you to stay with us, let's go back to Pratikrit Payne, the security expert who remains with us. Mr. Payne, if we take a step back from this story itself and I ask you for an overview of the larger situation, one of the sort of summaries that analysts have of this situation is that though we have successfully been able to battle this issue in a number of other states, in Chhattisgarh, it remains an issue for a multiplicity of reasons, the largest perhaps being that the usage of locals is still a relatively new, decade-old phenomenon when it comes to Chhattisgarh. So is that an analysis you agree with, or are there other reasons that you think it continues to pertain here?
Well, the use of locals, I think it has been going on for more than 1.5 decades now. Yes, more and more locals are now joining the forces. And in Chhattisgarh, the most difficult issue is that there are areas in Chhattisgarh where probably the administration had not entered for several decades. So now that they're entering these new regions, the terrain is a very, very difficult one. I have been into Chhattisgarh. I know the kind of difficult terrain these places, especially the Dandakarana region consisting of 4-5 districts, the kind of difficult terrain it is. That is number one issue. Number two issue is very important, is what are the priorities of the state government in terms of where they should invest. I think DRG as a force is pretty well equipped in terms of weapon systems, but what they require, as Arunima also mentioned, is that they need two-wheelers. They need a large number of two-wheelers. That is where they have to without any doubt, the state will have to invest having two-wheelers. The third is that, what is very important is that when you have a conflict like this, even though they have been trained, and I repeat, certain sections of, DRG has been trained by at the counterinsurgency and jungle warfare training school in Bairangate. Some have been trained by Greyhound. What is important is that you do not lower your guard when you are coming back. You see that most of these attacks, DRG faced similar attacks a few years back as well, in a similar pattern of using a local vehicle. Issue is when you return, you should not lower your guard. Correct. That's where they are tired. And of course, again, I repeat, Arunima mentioned, the fact is that in many cases, an unfortunate issue is this: while the constabulary consists of locals, the officers of DRG are not locals. They are non-tribals. So there is some way, I think it would be better if their leadership is also tribal. In that case, the synergy between the officers and the constabulary would be better.
Mr. Payne, thank you for bringing us that context. Arunima, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for bringing us that context.